House in the background on the same plot of land, and a white pickup truck starts approaching me from that house. I'm thinking they just leaving the yard just to go somewhere, but then they get like extremely close to me, start blowing the horn, so I thought I was in their way. I proceeded to try to leave the yard, and the dude or whoever was in the truck tried to cut me off. I swerved around him, and I just like started hitting the gas to try to get out of there. I didn't know what his intentions were. I drive down about 2 or 3 houses, and there's another guy standing in the middle of the road with a gun pointed at my window, and he's mouthing the words "stop," and he's on his hands like this with the gun, "stop."
All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. The testimony that you just heard is that of a young man, D'Monterrio Gibson, who was the victim of an attempt on his life on January 24th, 2022 by another barbaric Neanderthal savage father and son duo, Brandon Case, the son, and Gregory Case. This happened in Brookhaven, Mississippi. Now, there's no need to rehash all of the stories that we've had from Mississippi, but this incident happened approximately 3 years ago. A judge declared a mistrial in the case of these guys literally shooting at D'Monterrio Gibson's van as he's trying to deliver a FedEx package. Now, I'm going to show you the rest of his detailed account of what really happened that day, but I'm also going to take you on a backwards timeline from the time that this case was dismissed, from the time the guys were arrested, and from the time that the crime happened, and show you how this is another miscarriage of justice. We all saw the story of Maurice Byrd and Mark Wilson. When these guys defended themselves against somebody who was trying to attack them, they ended up in prison. This guy, D'Monterrio Gibson, going about his regular life. He's a new driver, maybe 21, 22. Reminds you of anybody else, i.e. Javion McGee. Going about his right, and he gets cornered, chased, lured by a father and son duo who, quote unquote, thought he was suspicious in a FedEx uniform. He didn't have the FedEx van, but he had a Hertz van, which FedEx had rented. Nevertheless, this technicality that you're going to hear about real quick is why this father and son duo, reminiscent of the father and son duo in the Ahmaud Arbery case, got off. And I'm going to go ahead and play this. Y'all tell me what y'all think about this reasoning, why they has dismissed or declared a mistrial in the case of these attempted homiciders.
A shocking turn tonight in the attempted trial of 2 white men accused of chasing and shooting at a black FedEx driver. The judge declaring a mistrial. Jesse Kirsch has details.
Tonight, outrage in Mississippi. A judge declaring a mistrial in the case of 2 white men accused of trying to murder D'Monterrio Gibson, a black FedEx driver who had just made a delivery.
And with great reluctance, the court has no choice in this matter but to grant the motion for a mistrial.
Gibson's mother escorted from court today after Judge David Strong's ruling, a day after a police officer admitted to withholding evidence. Brookhaven Police Detective Vincent Fernando saying under oath that authorities had taken a videotaped statement from Gibson, but did not share it with either the defense or prosecution, as was required.
The failure to turn over matters in discovery is just something that can't be ignored. In 17 years, I don't think I've ever seen it happen, but it happened here.
A mistrial is a major hiccup for the prosecution, but all in all, a second trial really saps the resources of the defense more than the state.
Brookhaven police have not responded to NBC News' request for comment. Gibson says in January 2022, he made a delivery in his Fedex uniform and was driving a Hertz van with the rental company's markings when Gregory Chase and his son Brandon allegedly chased and shot at him. Gregory Case's attorney says his client only planned to ask the driver what was happening outside his mother-in-law's home, but the driver did not stop. Gibson believes he was chased because he's black. In a statement tonight, Gibson's attorney calling the mistrial a delay in justice, calling on the Department of Justice to investigate the Brookhaven Police Department. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
And so there you have the reasoning, the technicality in which these two animals are not being charged for hunting Mr. Gibson down like a prey. You heard his mother express her sentiments in the courtroom, and the judge just rocking back in his chair. Well, you know, I hate to do it, but we got to declare a mistrial. Like he doesn't even care, just rocking back in his chair. Now, the reasoning that they're saying they have to declare a mistrial is that this police, that police officer that you just saw, failed to hand over a recorded statement that he had took from the victim, D'Monterrio Gibson, to the prosecutor and the defense. Now, that is what they call a motion of discovery. Everybody got to have all of the information. Now, I'm going to tell you why that this is basically almost a planned plot to get those brothers off jail. A planned plot to get that father and son duo off of these charges. In the next video, you will see the lawyer of Gibson talks about the relationship between Brandon and Gregory Chase, the criminals, the ones who are charged, and a chief assistant in the Brookhaven, Mississippi Police Department, also named Case. So how does this officer, and you'll hear the judge say, I've never seen this happen in 17 years. How does this decorated officer, also longtime officer, automatically just forget that he had this statement and don't turn it over with his file and all of his information? And the fact also, and you're going to see in this article, that they took 10 months to even indict these men on the charges. 10 months. So they wasn't arrested until November of 2022. November. And you heard the story of Brandon Case. The son said, well, no, I only plan to ask him what happened, you know, or what he was doing at my mother-in-law's house. Well, that's all you had to do. If he doesn't allow you to ask him what happened, that gives you no right to shoot at him. Watch this next clip. Watch this next news article.
It's like an extremely long process to even get this far inside of the case. I feel like most of the time I was treated like a suspect rather than a victim.
It's almost been a year since D'Monterrio Gibson's FedEx route turned into a lifer situation. The 24-year-old was attempting to deliver packages along Junior Trail on January 24th when Gregory and Brandon Case allegedly shot his vehicle and chased him. It wasn't until November 15th that the father-son duo was indicted for attempted murder.
I know that Dr. King said justice delayed, it's not justice denied, but 10 months, nearly 10 months from the date he was accosted, assaulted, almost killed, we finally have an indictment or indictments.
Gibson's attorney, Carlos Moore, maintains that the delay is due to a conflict of interest within the Brookhaven Police Department.
We do know that the assistant chief of police has the same last name as the cases. His last name is Pace, and he's related to them based on my investigation.
We've asked Chief Kenneth Collins about this before, only to be told, quote, "There's no relation. We've gone down the whole family tree to make sure that we're truthful. My assistant chief, Chris Case, is kin to a totally different set of cases," end quote. Regardless of what's causing the delay, Moore says it's only forcing his client to wait longer for true justice, which will come in the form of convictions.
This happened in January of this year. It is now November. On typical timeline, you would have had indictments secured probably in March or April. You would have been at trial by now.
And so there you have the lawyer speaking about that possible connection. And if you saw, I don't know if those black men were the Chief Kenneth Hollins or whoever, but they denied any connection. However, when you have a town of that smaller people, Brookhaven, Mississippi is not that good. Best believe that when those guys got in trouble, they know somebody. They know somebody down at that station who can pull the strings. Okay, how are we going to get out of this, man? Yeah, we know we wrong, but this is Mississippi. We do what we want to. That black man should have stopped for us. And yet he didn't. So you fire off ranks, right? But the fact that it's a black police chief, once again, you have to disregard that because the people who run the town are the district attorney and the judges. And I don't even discount the district attorney's hand in this as well. Because the district attorney has to request all of those things. Now, the district attorney said, well, yeah, a request was made, but we never received it. So, like before the trial starts, you make a motion to say, look, we never received this. So I think it's a whole plot by the entire court system to say, okay, well, how can we get these guys off by a technicality? And as you heard Mr. Gibson say, the entire time he was questioned, he felt like he was the criminal instead of the victim. Now watch this very smart, articulate, well-spoken brother articulate these events and what happened that day. And they tried to take this young brother out. He said literally packages in the truck were littered with bullet wounds. Just look, just watch this articulate brother point out the timeline of events.
They shot several times into that van trying to go Mr. Gibson. And he had done nothing wrong. He was simply black while working. That is not a crime in Mississippi.
So basically, I was just going to deliver a package to 417 Junior Trail. I'm a new driver, so I still use my GPS. I accidentally put in the incorrect address. I put in 427 instead of 417. So as I'm driving down the street, I'm looking for 427, and I can't find it because it's the incorrect address. I proceed to leave the neighborhood, and I noticed 417 to my left, and I realized that might be the correct address. I have a Leo. It's my work device. I check it. I confirm that 417 is the correct address rather than 427. I turn around and around the yard and proceed to the address. I hop out, deliver the package, and hop back in. There's a house in the background on the same plot of land, and a white pickup truck starts approaching me from that house. I'm thinking they just leaving the yard just to go somewhere, but then they get like extremely close to me, start blowing the horn, so I thought I was in the way. I proceeded to try to leave the yard, and the dude or whoever was in the truck tried to cut me off. I swerve around him, and I just like start hitting the gas to try to get out of there. I didn't know what his intentions were. I drive down about 2 or 3 houses, and there's another guy standing in the middle of the road with a gun pointed at my window, and he's mouthing the words stop, and he's on his hands like this with the gun, stop. I shake my head, I start hiding behind the steering wheel, hoping he don't shoot inside the van, and I swerve around him as well. When I swerve around him, he starts firing shots into my van. I keep driving. I get to the end of the street, and one of my managers actually called me, and she heard some of the shots going off, and I told her that they were shooting at me. She basically just replied to what I said. Are they shooting at you? I was like, yes, ma'am, they are. She was like, just hurry up, get back to the station as fast as you can. So I'm still hitting the gas at this point, and I noticed a white pickup truck behind me. They end up chasing me all the way out the city, like to a highway. I think it was Highway 55. It's right there by a truck stop in Brookhaven. And I drive down about 10 to 15 minutes until I feel safe. I call a different manager. I let him know what's going on. He told me we're gonna file a report in the morning. I ain't really feel comfortable with that because I know the police gonna question why I didn't come that night. So I go ahead and I try to file a report myself, which I did. When I finally reached dispatch, I told about half of my story, and then the guy cut me off. He asked, were you at this address? And I said, yes, sir. He said, we just received a call about a suspicious person from this address. I informed him that I wasn't a suspicious person. I worked for Fedex, and I was just doing my job. I also let him know that they would shoot me. He told me that they didn't tell him that, of course, they wouldn't. I told him that me and my manager would be coming in the morning and asked if I could finish my story. He said he'd just take my name down and give it to the supervisor the next morning. After that, I went back to the station, and the manager there actually called me while the shooting was going on. We checked the back of the van. There was all type of bullet holes in the back of the van, inside packages. The package was like right behind me, like the bullets literally could have hit me. I had to file a report with Fedex that same night, and after that, we went to the police station the following morning. When I got to the police station, they weren't really taking me serious. I dealt with like 3 different officers. The first officer, he actually took down my statement, and I told him the story like 3 or 4 times. He just kept changing my words. I'm not sure why, if it was protocol or whatever he was trying to do, but I'd tell him the story, and he'd be like, so this is what you're saying happened? I would say, no, sir. This is what happened. We did it about 3 or 4 times before he finally got it right. There was a second officer who was sitting there listening to me tell the story, and he actually made a comment. He said, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second and ask you, did you do anything to make them think it was suspicious? That was the utmost disrespect. But I let him know I was just doing my job, and if they made them think I was suspicious, that's on them.
To know my son could have lost his life on January 24th, 2022, due to him simply doing his job and being black. It was very heartbreaking and traumatizing to me as well.
This man came within an inch of losing his life. I mean, several of the packages that received bullets were right behind him in the vehicle. Yet and still, the cases were not arrested immediately. He immediately notified the police of the incident that same night. They were not immediately arrested. Let me ask you this. Had it been a black father and son duo that shot at a white young man doing his job, do you think they would have allowed them a week to rest at home comfortably? No.
And my answer to that question and your answer to that question is no as well. There you heard the young man articulate that he was riding around the neighborhood. He was a new driver, so he put the wrong address in. He was looking for the home. He was like, well, sure, I can't find it. So then he rode by this address and was like, okay, well, maybe that's the address. Then he found out it was the right address. So he goes to this house where evidently the mother or whoever ordered whatever he was delivering, a FedEx package. And so then it's probably one of those houses where, you know, it's a big plot of land. You got one house back there. You got a house in the back. You know, it looks, if you saw the country road, it's probably like one of those country locations. So he said, as he's, now mind you, they probably have been following him or targeting him soon as he pulled in the neighborhood and was riding around, couldn't find anything, couldn't find the right address. Pulled into one house, he didn't think, you know, that wasn't it. So now they're on alert. So they come to his house. Okay, well, what is he doing out there? He goes, drop the package off. Somebody comes blowing at him. He's thinking he's trying to get out the way. And then, but, you know, the guy gets closer to him. Then he drives down and he goes around the guy. The guy literally tried to block him in. So he goes around him. And then it's another guy already standing in this middle of the street with a firearm, telling him to stop. And when he don't stop, he just goes to shoot him. And then his excuse is what I just wanted to ask him what happened. They literally chased this man out of town until he had the wherewithal to feel safe and stop somewhere. Call his manager. His manager was on the phone. I do question the managers saying, yeah, just wait till tomorrow and we'll file a police report. He did right. Nah, like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Let's go ahead and get this cracking right now. And so he called the police. He mentioned how, you know, they was cutting him off. You know, where you at this address? Yeah, well, we just received a call of a suspicious person at this address. I'm not a suspicious person. I'm doing my job. I just got shot at. Well, what did you do to make you feel make them feel suspicious. Like, once again, what did you do to make them shoot at you like that? That's what they might basically ask, right? And so ever since from there, the case was that he told the man, "I'll take your name down and we'll call you tomorrow." And when he got there, one detective finally took his statement, trying to change his words, because once again, he's a 24-year-old. That young brother, you can tell, is very smart, very articulate. And it's a shame that these backwood, I'm not even going to just give them the dishonor, just these savages would just hunt this young man like this. And it reminds you once again of Ahmaud Arbery, the father-son case, that would not have been national news if it were not for a legal authority who knew about it and they were keeping it hush-hush. You don't think this is the case here? Man, look how lackadaisical that judge was talking about it. Like, if this is as serious as they want, the judge would have been way, like, mad, fussing at the deputy. Like, there's no, the detective hasn't been fired. No, they said that it's a mistrial. Now, mind you, a mistrial is they're going to have another trial. But what's going to happen here? This man got to wait another 2 or 3 years, while these men, just like the lawyer said, they were allowed to go home for a week before even arrested, and then 10 months before they even were indicted. And so this trial is, again, a clear-cut example of the double standards. And actually, once again, this mistrial, this mistrial was in 2023. I thought this was recently, but even though this is still a case of the two different forms of the judicial systems in the United States. So I'm going to keep an eye on this case as well as the other cases, and we're going to see what has been the result of this situation. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.
From local stories to Wayne County news, get ready to dive into everything happening in North Carolina with Taylor House Publishing. Got a story to share? Shoot us an email at taylorpublishinghouse@gmail.com. If you're looking to publish your book or need some top-notch mentorship, we've got your back. Join the excitement with the one and only Richard Taylor, right here at Taylor House Publishing. Speak with Richard directly at 919-587-7782. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and invite your family and friends to watch.
From Wayne County to the Carolina coast, Taylor House brings the news you love most. Tune in on YouTube, don't miss a beat. Local stories that keep you on your feet. Taylor House, we got the scoop. Taylor House Publishing.